"Are you a hooker?" asks the policeman attending to the violent case of rape and murder in the outskirts of Delhi. He asks Naina, the rape survivor of the incident that has also left her severely injured and her friend Malini dead. He asks as both the women were in a remote part of the city late at night. That's the default correspondence that his brain draws. In another few seconds, we find Aftab coming into the police station. He is Naina's husband, who immediately embraces her as if to guard her from further harassment and comfort her wounded body in whatever possible way. Aparna Sen's The Rapist, that won the top award at last year's Busan Film Festival, is a film about the world of these two men. The two Indias that exist around us and the woman caught in between. It is a film that promotes perspectives, philosophies that might not go well with the pulse of the human instinct, but definitely with the idea of humanity, and above all is a search for justice amid such polarized realities. We had the opportunity to watch the film in Kolkata International Film Festival last week, and here we are bringing you our thoughts on the film. The premise is pretty simple. Naina and Aftab, a happy married couple from Delhi, are liberals in their ideas, as their names would suggest. The film would take us through a ride that puts both of them through a clinical dissection of whether their liberalism is just an image or they can stick up to it on the face of personal crisis. Aftab is a professor of chemistry, a crusader against capital punishment. Naina is a professor of criminal psychology, researching and interviewing death row prisoners, and perhaps it is this mutual interest in crime and punishment that had brought them together. The couple is trying for an issue for some time now that comes across as the only bit of tension over the spirited happiness that the duo shares in their daily lives. The backdrop, as the first chapter of the episodic film is named, also introduces us to Prasad Singh, the titular rapist of the film, as the camera takes us to the slums near Noida, a world of patriarchy and toxic masculinity, in absolute contrast to the cozy home of Aftab and Naina or their workspace. There's connection between these two worlds though, like Naina's housemaid, who is raising his son Kabir to belong to the world of enlightenment and education. And we later come to know how the housemaid herself has faced the whips of masculinity. There's also the janitor lady at Naina's college, whose daughter lives in Prasad's slum, and has got entangled in a case of domestic violence and infanticide. Naina and her friend Malini visit the slums to help this girl, where Prasad and his gang notices them. The two worlds that were connected this far now collide. We loved the way Aparna Sen presents the actual incident, the second chapter of the film. She takes us to the point of collision and then moves on to the aftermath, only coming back to the fateful night later in snaps of flashbacks. This goes in line with the theme of the film that suggests that an act of rape itself, primal ideas of power and domination, isn't anything new that deserves focus. It's the backdrop and the aftermath that's more concerning, as we now start observing intriguing overlaps between the supposedly different worlds. The insensitive interrogations by police and court, or the dual face of friends and family, makes you wonder how the same toxicity and patriarchy is masqueraded behind supposedly educated appearances and sophisticated faces. While Naina's physical wounds heal, the impact of these societal prejudices are there to stay. They often come back as hallucinations of our now dead friend Malini. And to make matters worse, the violent incident also leaves Naina pregnant. That takes a further toll on her relation with Aftab. The Rapist is a film that emphasizes on the immediate response of each of the characters to every new exposition, turn of events, and how our society affects the best of us. It also advocates that in our continuous struggle to override our primal instincts with education and humane awareness, any immediate response might not be all that a human being is. The books that we find in Naina's and Aftab's house, or the researchers that are involved in as vocations, are things that set them apart. And if a sudden strike of personal crisis might alter faith in philosophies for the educated selves they are, what might have been the arc of Prasad Singh in life? Devoid of any such enlightenment, in the second half of the film, Naina goes out in that search to understand Prasad and why he might have committed such a violent abuse on her. The gap between crime and the criminal, the paradoxes around the idea of justice, The letters of it and spirit of it were all brilliantly questioned by the master author Krzysztof Kieślowski in a short film about killing from the Decalogue series. Kieślowski makes you loathe the criminal in the first half of his film and then takes away the carpet under your feet as we go down to his backstory. Aparna tries a similar approach. A similar backstory of the sister reminds us of the Kieślowski classic, but the multiple threads of the narrative in The Rapist doesn't quite take us to a similar hard-hitting effect. The episodic nature of the film also moves the audience from the organic emotion play that would have otherwise worked. Nevertheless, what beautifully comes across in the second phase of the film is how violence against women in our society is mostly about authority and making women realize their supposed position in the patriarchal structure. In our interviews with Prasad, when Nana faces with him confidence, the power politics between the victim and the perpetrators changes, which also helps Nana to finally heal inside and somewhat get back her rhythm in life. Sen also sucks the colors of her frame gradually as the film progresses, as if in line with the mood of the narrative and what's happening inside the heads of her characters. And then the film quite purposefully doesn't also work like a mathematical proof against capital punishment or justifies the reasons of Prasad's crime. Perhaps Aparna, like her characters, is still in dilemma where the theoretical analysis holds good for all such crimes, and these self-doubts come across beautifully through Arjun Rampal's Aftab. Rampal actually works as a very interesting casting choice. His chiseled looks and build, sophisticated appearance, caring nature, paints a perfect male image in our minds. And this same popular image of the male also struggles to accommodate him as someone infertile, who also signs a mercy petition for his wife's rapist. We hear Malini's husband shout to him that he is not man enough, in not wanting to take revenge on Prasad. His friend Subhash suggests that Aftab might be lost in trying to live up to the expectations of his liberal image. It's the turmoil inside Aftab, the arc of his character, that holds the film together. Konkona, the powerhouse of talent, is great, although this one might not be one of her finest works. She's amazing, particularly near the end of the film, during her interviews with Prasad. The earlier sequences have enough for her in the script to work on, but it's the body language, dilemma, portrayal of confidence on the face, and the lack of it inside that were difficult to pull off, and could be carried out only by someone of Konkona's caliber. Tanmay Dhanania as Prasad pulls off a very difficult role in evoking vulnerability inside a criminal who has committed the worst possible crime. But overall, the performances also lack a certain sense of organic flair due to the episodic screenplay that tries to explain too much. Maybe that's the intention in communicating paradox of justice to a TikTok generation. However, it's the last 10 minutes that make up for most of it, as the rapist finally turns from prose to poetry. That's the sequence that will stay with you, raising further questions in our mind and pointing out how every single death is as morally repugnant as the other. It gets back to the point of one's immediate response to a crisis and suggests how the strong and the weak differ in facing the toughest situations. We are once again reminded that one response is not an individual. We will not explain it any further and let you watch it yourself when the film is available in theatres or OTT. Whether an individual agrees or disagrees with Sen's position on the issue of capital punishment, there is no denying that her case deserves attention. And while the director doesn't provide a direct answer to the question of why men rape, her scrutiny of the reasons offers a bloody portrait that's definitely not as simple as it appears at the outset. That is all from us today. Thank you for watching.